Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on the 10th edition of Renew Education. It's my pleasure and honor to invite you once again to this incredible discussion that will be facilitated by our highly esteemed guests. As you can see from some of the profiles, they've had decades of experience working across different financial institutions and sectors. And it's such a pleasure that they found time to come join us today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce myself and introduce us to the first speaker. So I'm Ibo Shalom Chilaru. I'm the founder of Renewatt Technologies and also doing a doctoral program at the University of Florida. And with that, I'm going to share my screen to introduce our first speaker, just to tell you a little bit about her. And um, she goes ahead to share with us what she has for us today. Okay. Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Our first speaker today is Margarita Caldron. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She is a principal in the EBRD's Gender and Economic Inclusion team. She leads the team's work on the energy sector, including under the Just Transition Initiative, focusing on how energy investment and climate finance can promote equal opportunities for all. She has more than 15 years of experience in managing complex development programs aimed at impacting policy and decision making across a range of emerging markets. Prior to EBRD, she worked at the Overseas Development Institute in the risks and resilience. Oh, so sorry. In the risks and resilience program, where she led the strategy on the economics and finance for resilience and the access to market component of the then largest UK funded climate adaptation program, led by Enda Energy in Senegal. She also worked at the World Bank, focusing on job creation interventions in East Africa and South Asia. She holds a PhD in development economics from Humboldt University Berlin and an MSc degree in economics from Bocconi University Milan. With a round of emojis, please make welcome our first speaker, Margarita, for her section. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and my pleasure really to be here at this discussion. I have a few slides. Should I start to share my screen now? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'll stop sharing. You can go ahead.
Yeah. I hope you see. Yeah. Margherita Calderone, I'm a principal in the Gender and Economic Inclusion team, and I work on negotiating the conditionalities on gender and economic inclusion that we link to our investments in the energy sector. So I really specialize on our activities in the energy sector. I want to start to introduce my organization first, the EBRD, in case some of you might not be aware of the history. It was established in 1991 to build a new post-Cold War era in Central and Eastern Europe. But it has then expanded in new transition countries across, for example, Central Asia, then Mongolia, Turkey, Lebanon, and the whole of the MENA region. And now we are also about to expand in Sub-Saharan Africa. It is owned by our shareholder countries, as well as the European Union and the European Investment Bank. It has a set of strategic priorities that guide the investments of the bank, at least till 2025, and we are now in the phase of developing new ones for the next period. But the priorities till next year are to invest more in green, inclusive, and digitalization. We are not a retail bank, we are a multilateral development bank, so we do not offer commercial products or mortgages or bank accounts for individuals. We do direct financing in the form of loans and equity to companies, generally ranging from as small as 5 million to 250, 300 million. Our average would be, our minimum would be maybe 25 million that has to pass through all the project cycle clearances. And for projects between 5 and 25 million, we have a specific framework that allows for smaller investments to be processed at a slightly faster pace. We do not finance directly SMEs, but we work through financial intermediaries, so our partner financial institutions and banks locally, so that they can extend lend to SMEs. And we also have the advisory service for SMEs to help them grow and succeed. We extend our countries of operations, extend across 3 continents. So the Central Asia, Eastern Europe, Western Balkans, Turkey, and the MENA region, and you can see all the countries here. We are also about to expand to Sub-Saharan Africa in 6 selected countries, but this will start in next year. We are still in the process of finalization of the legal procedures that would allow us to open our operations there. We cover different sectors from agribusiness, infrastructures, transport, anything related to corporates and banks. So we were really created to promote the private sector, and we are a private sector oriented bank with the objective to help build open markets and promote sustainable and inclusive growth. Based on this, our investments have to promote our so-called transition qualities, and we have 6 of them. So we want our markets to be, our investments to help markets so that they can become more competitive in terms of the dynamicity and growth in productivity. We want to support better governance, rule of law, and transparency. We want to use investments, for example, in the transport sector, so that markets are more integrated in terms of trade, services, and capital. We want to ensure that our operations help stabilize economies and make them more resilient to withstand shocks such as, or wars, such as it happened in Ukraine. Now we are investing more to support the country. And we also have a strong focus, and 50% of our operations have a target to be green, so to support the green energy transition and economy transition more broadly. And of course, what I focus on is to ensure that markets also support inclusivity and equal opportunities for all, so that no one is left behind through our operations. When we convince one of our clients to support certain objectives along one of these priorities, then we might either commit the client to set certain targets that they can achieve on their own, or we can help them through our technical cooperation support, which is usually in the most likely in the form of a grant, but we do ask for a small cash contribution from our clients, so that we ensure that they don't just say yes to certain commitments for the sake of getting extra money, but they're really interested in promoting and ensuring that the activities can also be sustainable. While we have this private sector's focus, investing in companies such as in the renewable energy sector, we also try our best to combine our activities with policy reforms so that we can achieve further systemic impact. So just to tell you about our results last year, we signed more than 460 projects, which were worth more than 13 billion. Our investments in green were 50%, and this is usually the target for the bank. So, this was worth 6.5 billion. More than 200 projects had a gender component, so 44% on the total. And about 140 had also an equal opportunity and economic inclusion component, meaning that thousands of individuals are expected to benefit through skills development activities or more broadly, our activities that promote social impact. And I'm not sure how you want to structure this, if you want to have questions in the middle, if anybody wants to interrupt me, or I'll just keep going. But also because with this presenter view, I'm not seeing the chat. Please just let me know if if anybody has questions while I keep going. So on the gender and economic inclusion side, we have two specific strategies that set our ambitions in this space. One for the promotion of gender equality, and one that aims to tackle inequalities more broadly beyond only gender. So that's the equality of opportunity strategy. In both of these strategies, we have a strong focus as one of our thematic lenses on ensuring that we look at the nexus between gender inequality and climate change. So between gender and climate change could be about mainstreaming our gender activities across the different investments that promote the green economy, such as in green cities, renewable energy frameworks, the financial investment facilities, or in the agriculture space. And then similarly, in the quality of opportunity strategy, we look at the nexus between the promotion of human capital and access to skills and employment, and focusing on the green sectors. We do this across three types of sectors: those in the financial systems, where we look at creating inclusive business environments. We do this, our work with corporates, where we focus on promoting access to skills and employment. And we do this with our infrastructure clients, where we focus on promoting access to services and public goods for all. So as I was explaining, we try to leverage our investments to tackle certain business challenges that our clients are facing. So we always start from creating the business case for our investments in economic inclusion. And this could be because the client is struggling to find skilled talent among the local workforce, or because they're struggling to attract women and they suffer from a limited workforce diversity. Or it could be because they have a very high staff turnover, because they cannot set the right incentives and HR policies for their workforce to stay. So we jointly develop with them tailored solutions that are really aimed at solving their problems. So if they're struggling to find skilled talent, we develop specific training programs that are very market oriented. If they cannot attract women, we develop gender action plans for them, or we can help them design new products and services if they want to access new markets. But in doing this, while we want to solve their problem, we also want to ensure that they create opportunities for all. So if there is a training program, we would help them set targets so that youth can access this training program, so that women can access this training program. And these are tailored to their needs as much as the skills profiles of the local prospective or existing workforce. Where possible, we also leverage these investments to reach the policy level. And this could be, for example, in the infrastructure sector, because these big clients see that the barriers are actually at the national level and not necessarily only at the sectoral level. It could be that it's not just about one training program that is missing, but it's a whole system of green skills that hasn't been defined for a certain country, and then we work on this at the national level, or just to unlock further opportunities. Why we think that it's very important to work on this nexus between equality and climate change for different reasons, including the fact that climate change can lead to economic disruptions that really threaten the livelihoods of many in our countries of operation specifically. And this means that we have to help those sectors and clients and their workforces so that their future is still fit for purpose, and they can ensure their viability and performance going forward. There is also a need to ensure that no one is left behind. So, for example, when in Eastern Europe, we work on helping clients to decarbonize and move away from fossil fuels, then we have a specific initiative that is called Just Transition that really focuses on helping the communities and workers that are affected by the closing of certain assets, so that they can be reskilled and supported in the transition. And then we also consider the aspect on gender to be very fundamental, and that's why we have an objective to mainstream gender in everything we do, considering that it's really important to work on this nexus too. So we try to leverage opportunity to promote access to skills that are required for the green transition, access to employment in green jobs, access to green services, for example, the services that the city might promote, might be able to offer through our investments in the greening of their infrastructure. Access also to green technology and advisory services for SMEs so that we can promote sustainable entrepreneurship. For us, it is very key to have this people-centered approach. And in particular, we know that women can be very powerful agents of change. They can promote good environmental practices. They tend to have strong awareness around climate change. They can be a good source of knowledge and expertise that can really prove invaluable in terms of environmental management. And this can bring productivity increases as well, especially in the agriculture sector. On the policy side, I can offer you some examples on how we have done this in the energy sector. For example, in the Western Balkans, we have this Just Transition program for not only reskilling the workforce affected by decarbonization, but really create a national reskilling strategy that brings together all the actors that need to work together to solve such a structural challenge. In Turkey, we have worked with our clients to bring them closer to the public sector and the municipalities where they're located so that they can work together on promoting new childcare solutions and, for example, establishing new childcare facilities or finding ways to further subsidize access to childcare where the services already exist. In Kazakhstan, there were some laws that prohibited the access to certain type of jobs in the energy sector for women, supposedly because there were some safety concerns, but we work on ensuring that those type of lists can be abolished, because if a certain job is safe for men, then it should be safe for women too. And we have been successful in doing this in Kazakhstan specifically. I also want to give you some examples of our operational responses. So what we would do in our more standard approaches. So, for example, in the energy sector specifically, we have been working in Turkey with a leading energy distribution company, Energisa, that supported the introduction of new curricula on green and digital skills for young energy specialists, but also set a target to ensure that the young refugees, such as the Syrians in the cities of Istanbul and Hatay, could also attend these courses. And we work with civil society organizations that knew how to reach this specific target group. In Tajikistan, we have been working through our partner financial institution and local banks to ensure that women could have access to finance so that they could buy productive assets to promote their resilience to climate change, but also invest in green technologies. And we found that actually among all the supported SMEs, 28% were women-led businesses who reported to benefit from such loans extended through our intermediated finance. Across our Green Cities program, we have been working specifically in Georgia with the Tbilisi transport company to improve their energy efficiency standards, but also to improve their human resources policies and standards so that they could roll out a gender action plan to have more female bus drivers, but also to set targets to increase the share of women in their workforce. One of our newer initiatives that only started about 3-4 years ago is the Just Transition one that I was mentioning before, where we really bring together the green and inclusive agenda from the core of it. It's a core objective that is really that of accelerating the progress along the targets of the Paris Agreement while ensuring that people are not falling behind. So this brings together 3 pillars of promoting the energy transition and investing in green, while also promoting human capital development through worker support programs, and also looking at the barriers that these mainly con regions have so that we can promote economic diversification away from their dependency on fossil fuels. Usually on the Just Transition side, we flip the story a bit and we start from the policy engagement, because we work on ensuring that Just Transition is integrated in policy documents. We can develop diagnostics and action plan that really model the possible transition pathways that a certain country and specific region, and then also what it means for employment, so that we can provide certain suggestions on how this could be done in a sustainable way. We also focus on ensuring that this is done through stakeholder engagement, and this is implemented in an inclusive way. And then we work on disseminating our knowledge products. In terms of financing, we focus on the 3 pillars equally. So we try to finance green technologies, workforce packages, and diversification opportunities. And we offer our technical cooperation because we consider this to be particularly relevant in this context, which can be about supporting the feasibility of how to reconvert assets to low carbon use, or rehabilitation and remediation activities that can be part of broader environmental plans. And also, of course, our reskilling programs to retrain and upskill the workers, including youth. We have also a specific objective of promoting skills and access to jobs for youth. We know that this is a core business challenge for our clients, and there is a need to develop tailored solutions for this. And for example, in Bulgaria, we managed to combine the objectives, so to foster a just transition while also promoting access to green skills for youth. And we have done this with a wind energy developer. That's really a US-based company that's very well known, but it's also investing in Bulgaria. So they decided to establish a partnership with the local university so that they could introduce a new bachelor degree focused really on the renewable energy and all the practical aspects of it, of designing, constructing, and operating a large wind plant. And their employees went there and acted as guest lecturer and really helped develop the curriculum from scratch. They also offer scholarships to youth, not necessarily only from the region where they were based and the university was based, but also from the coal-dependent area of Bulgaria, which is called Zagora. So that these people could, these youth could move where the opportunities were to access green skills and jobs, with the aim of reaching gender equality across those tapping into the scholarship opportunities. They also offer certain opportunities for internships, which were paid. And they did a specific outreach to the local high schools in the coal region so that everybody in high school would know that these opportunities were available if they wanted to enroll into a university degree the year after. We have been quite successful in promoting this type of activities in Turkey as well, where we had a lot of investments. For example, apart from the one with Energisa that I mentioned before, we also worked with our client Borusan, another wind energy and renewable energy developer, where they partner not with a university, but with a technical college, so that they could develop new green skills for technicians. This was done in what is called a dual learning approach, which means that students had both their courses in with more focus on theory in class, but also they had the work-based learning at the premises of the client. There were different cohorts that went through this program, and they included about 50% of women. And they also developed a specific Young Women in Wind initiative to offer a scholarship and mentorship opportunities for young girls. And just to close this up, because I think my time is over, we also have done this in Uzbekistan very similarly with another big renewable energy developer, AquaPower, Saudi-based. They invested a significant share of their own profits into establishing the Shirin College of Energy, a local Tibet college, to really foster the technical expertise of students and professionals in the wind and the broader renewable energy sector. But they also worked with the Ministry of Labor on the introduction of national occupational skill standards for 2 emerging occupations in this field, which means that these standards then become verifiable and really transparent at the national level, and they allow companies to recruit based on such requirements, and as well as education institutions to teach skills that are market relevant. And of course, as usual, there were also targets on the share of women included, because that's really our approach. And I think that's all. I hope it was useful. And I'm gonna close my presentation here. And I'm available for any questions.
Wow, thank you so much for the great insight. I didn't know Via ABRD have done this much, and I can see the great impact across different countries, different sectors, including women, young people. That's really inspirational, and I've gained a lot from the section. Before I open the floor for questions from the audience, I do have 2 inquiries. So I saw you mentioned that some pilot programs, future programs will include African countries like Nigeria, Uganda. So I was wondering, with these initiatives that have already been existed in Turkey, and will it be the same initiatives that will be coming to Nigeria and the African countries?
Yes, it will definitely be among the offer that we will have in these new countries of operations too. But I think we will also have to start developing new solutions that are really tailored to the needs of these new markets and regions for us. So, for example, we might start to work more on mini grids and promoting access to energy services, which is not such a barrier in our standard countries of operations. So I think definitely we will continue to expand our types of programs in the new countries of Africa as well, but we might as well work on new solutions.
Wow, that's great to hear. And I hope I'm not prying too much, but I wanted to know what kind of companies or like private sector engagement who should we look out for when we're trying to look into these programs? I'm asking this especially for the audience, so that in case they want to be a part of this, how they can get involved with them.
So we have some information on our website where we promote our activities as well as the activities of our clients. We have some comms material. For example, for AquaPower, we developed a very inspirational video where we show the story of the girls at the Shirin College of Energy, which it's really about a story about breaking gender stereotypes, because these are women in a fairly sort of traditionally male-dominated sectors, such as electrical engineering. And it's really about promoting these powerful stories. So you might find enough information on our website and through our visibility products.
Okay, maybe I will check for the website and every other materials. And if you have anything to share with us, that will be truly helpful for us to get through.
Sure, yes.
Uh, I would open it up for the audience. Does anybody want to ask a question directly? You can raise your hand. We can take about 2 questions from the audience, and we invite the next speaker. Anyone have a question?
Hello.
All
Yes,
right.
please.
Um, James, Kelvin raised his hands first. Let's go with Kelvin, then James, you can go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, Kelvin.
Well, yeah. So thank you so much. My name is Kelvin, and excuse me, sorry. My name is Kelvin Uchaya, and I'm speaking from Uganda. So my inquiry is, I came a bit late. I joined a bit late, and I didn't get to hear the full presentation, but it was quite eloquent and beautiful. So thank you so much to the presenter. But my question is, what is required of one to be part of the program? Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yes. So we try to be as inclusive and as possible in all our activities and programs. So we really tailor them to the skill set that's prevalent across the local youth or workforce. So for us, it's really important that we provide this opportunity as on an equal basis to all.
Okay. James.
Yes, thank you very much. Am I clear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. James Dricho once again from Uganda. I am happy to share with you and be part of this engagement. I really appreciate. And I'm also so much interested with with the research on renewable energy. But of now in Uganda, the status is we haven't explored the example given by the presentation, by the presenter, that is wind. However, we have other technologies that we engaged in. I'm a master's student in Makerere University, one of the leading universities in the country, in Uganda. However, I would wish to inquire if we could, the university or the students doing research related to renewable energy can collaborate with the organization so that we are able to, expand and have this down. And if there are any prototypes, we are able, whether they are able to support in such research projects. Thank you.
In Uganda, not yet, but we might soon have a similar program in Kenya, if it can be of any use. And I think it would be like following a similar approach to the ones I presented. So we would work with a local university there to ensure that these courses can be introduced according to the national standards.
Okay. I guess those are the 2 questions. And I think there's one final one that I have, and I'll not ask again. So I heard when you mentioned about including women in diverse engineering skills, and but I do have a concern when it comes to some programs that I feel might affect the health of women. Take, for instance, women working in nuclear plants or nuclear areas might have issues with fertility and all of that. So I wanted to know, what are the particular safety measures that are already in place for such kind of programs, especially when you mentioned including women in diverse STEM and renewable energy projects?
Yes, we do those type of studies as well, looking at the safety and security of different types of occupations. We have a specific team also that is those of the health and safety advisors within EBRD that really ensure that everything our clients do is in accordance with the local regulations and also labor laws. And of course, we take comfort in knowing that our clients have to comply with those type of requirements as part of the EBRD standard procedures.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you so much. And I'm so grateful that you
It was my pleasure. Yes, thank you very much for the invite.
Thank you so much. Safe trip, by the way, and hope
Thank
to
you.
catch up later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and with this, I'll be introducing our second speaker for the day. Let me tell you a bit about her, and she'll go ahead to share with us what she has for us today. It's an honor to also introduce Miss Asha. She has over 25 years of investment and advisory experience in emerging markets, 70 years at the International Finance Corporation and World Bank in project and corporate finance in the heavy industry, private equity investing in clean technologies, and climate investment funds management, and 7 years at Climate Capital Partners. She is the managing director, and we're pleased to have her. And the organization is a climate finance advisory firm that Ms. Aso founded in 2018. She's an expert in blended and concessional climate finance and has been leading complex global mandates, engaging government, IFIs, institutional investors, and the United Nations. She has structured about 500 million euros in green credit facilities for FIS of financial institutions in Africa and Asia. She managed the Clean Technology Fund's operations at the World Bank and set up the IFC Cleaner Production Advisory and developed an investment deal flow, the first for IFC in climate assets. She's a senior advisor to she was the senior advisor to the Green Climate Fund within 2016 to 2018, and she has executed investment and advisory transactions across the globe. She holds an MBA from HEC Montreal and DSS in Environmental Studies from the University of Montreal. So she's fluent in Arabic, English, and French. With a warm round of emojis, please let's make welcome Ms. Jomana Asa for her presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shalom, and good afternoon and maybe good morning to some of you, depending where you're staying. I'm very delighted and thank you, Shalom, and the team for inviting me to this nice group of people and this panel. So I have to apologize. I'm calling you from a hotel room because most of the time I am on missions on the ground. So I am somewhere in the Middle East. I won't disclose more than that, even if you try. So I didn't prepare a presentation. I wanted to have something a little bit more answering specific questions that Shalom sent me prior to this, and this was her thinking flow about the purpose of this panel a little bit. So the previous speaker presented really an institutional program, a view, what has been done, and this is a major institution, as you know. the European Bank. I did indeed work for the World Bank, which was a global vehicle, and the IFC, which is a private sector arm of the World Bank. So I do appreciate the perspective of institutions, the multilateral development banks or development finance institutions. However, I have strong and long experience in the private sector and structuring techniques, financing of projects, and that is very important to tackle the issue of the climate finance and all what goes around the issue of climate finance. With the ultimate goal, of course, accelerating mobilization of capital to developing countries so they can implement the Paris Agreement targets in mitigation and adaptation. So from here, Shalom, how do I go about it? Should I go with the flow, or you would like to ask me questions in line with what you said, or I just go with my notes a little bit and
You feel free to go with your notes, and we would come up with questions towards the end.
Okay, that's fantastic. So let me start by saying, okay, so we are talking about climate finance, but what is climate finance? So we can agree a little bit on a common ground before we tackle the other issues. So as I started quite early, we were the first generation really who worked on climate finance at the IFC, World Bank, and even the private sector. We used to call it climate finance environmental finance. Then it became a clean tech finance. Then it was called sustainable finance. And then it was called climate businesses and so on. Nowadays, we call it a climate finance. And there are a bit of nuances between climate finance and green finance. Green finance covers biodiversity as well. Climate finance does not cover exactly biodiversity, but it covers forestry from other standpoints, either mitigation or adaptation. So there are de facto overlaps, but there are also some nuances to pay attention to. The definition depends on who are the stakeholders. So if you read, for example, a statement from one of the developing countries, their definition of the climate finance for this country says the climate finance is a flow of financing from developed to developing countries at concessional rates. But is that true? Then there are other stakeholders who say that climate finance is only provided by governments. But is that true as well? And some say that climate finance is always concessional, but this is not true as well. In fact, climate finance can come from public and private sector. It exists in developed and developing countries. So when commercial banks and private equity funds, for example, financed the first renewable energy projects in California, that was climate finance, and this happened in the United States. So it is not really only developing countries' business, climate finance. As much as this is climate finance, as much as I would say the concentrated solar power project in Ouarzazate in Morocco, which was funded by a range of private and public sector financiers and investors. So de facto, a climate finance, in my opinion, is it could be finance that come from private and public sources, and sometimes it's together, and this is what we call blended finance. They take different tiers of financing, and it can use many instruments. It can use loans, equity, mezzanine, grants. The loan could be senior loans, could be subordinated loans. It uses, in fact, the same instruments, financial instruments, as any commercial entity, or what we have been using in development finance as well. The new element in climate finance is, because of the risk profile, whether real or it's a perception, it required tackling a higher level of risks, and this catalyzed a good amount of innovative instruments and business models that didn't exist before. And this was really to mitigate and offset the risk associated with climate change mitigation and adaptation projects. So when we talk about that, we can think of, for example, results-based finance. This was developed after we started talking about climate finance. You have development impact bonds, you have crops receipts, you have risk-sharing facilities, and so on. So under climate finance, we have important notions as well. We have blended finance. We talk a lot about blended finance. Blended finance is truly to bring multiple sources of finance around with different level of appetite for risk and structure together. And when we structure all these funds for the various sources, whether public or private or both, we create a leverage. And what do we mean by creating a leverage? Somebody comes with $10 million, and that can generate much more investors coming and putting maybe another 20 million. So we are leveraging, we are increasing the amounts. It could be a way also to have a balanced risk sharing approach. So we distribute the risks. And then also alignment of interest. We cannot enter into a transaction without having all interest addressed of all participants. So those are three principles. They play important role, and they are notions that we ought to understand when we look at climate finance. I leave maybe the questions to the end. So now, what is the role of multilateral development banks, the MDBs, and international financial institutions, IFIs? So in reality, DFIs played a key role at the beginning of the movement. You remember, commercial banks didn't want to take risks much. It was private equity funds who started funding projects where they thought it's high risk. Of course, private equity is a vehicle and equity is a risk instrument. So that was normal. However, in developing countries, most of the countries we are from, they don't have really a market for private equity. So they had to rely on banks as a key source of funding. The banks were not lending, and still many countries have very little, a fewer number of commercial banks who are willing to invest in renewable energy, even energy efficiency, which doesn't involve much risks in reality. So the DFIs created, in fact, they were the first entrant, and they created a market and catalyzed a demand with time, because they came actually providing debt instruments at the beginning with long maturities, long tenors, which they were not available in many of the developing countries. So you would come with to Jordan, and they will tell you we have maximum of 5 years. That is amazing. In Guinea, it's 3 years maybe tenors. With these funds from DFIs, they were offering something tailored to the nature of the project. So renewable energy project, most of the time, you need about 10 to 12 years, major infrastructure projects in water. The payback periods are much longer, and the cash flow horizon must be longer. So they provided long maturities. They provided also preferential interest rates compared to market rates. So that was excellent. And they provided, on the top of that, grants for technical assistance, and they provided the technical assistance themselves, i.e. they provided advisory on engineering, on feasibility studies, and so on. In this way, they equalized the market and created a level playing field. Enabling developers in this domain to access financing for their projects. They usually also, the second dimension, so this first one is really, they provided appropriate terms of funding. The second dimension is they take higher risks than other sources of funding. So as you are familiar with, when you have a project, you want to invest in it, you have a developer or a sponsor who inject some capital to start establishing this operation, whether it's buying the land, the equipment, the feasibility studies, and so on. Then you have maybe commercial banks providing financing. Maybe there are other investors who are interested in buying a stake in this company, and so on. The multilateral development banks, they come and they take higher risks than the others when structuring, particularly if there are multiple tiers of structure. They bring additional investors sometimes as well because of their AAA rating, credit rating, and the guarantees they can provide. So the DFIs de facto play a key role really to create a market and to innovate as well. But they are not the only players in town. Particularly now, the markets are dynamic and there are multiple sources. The DFIs remain as enablers. Unfortunately, their resources are very small given the needs, which is estimated in the trillions, only if we talk about the Paris Agreement, which spans until 2030. If we take beyond 2030, we are talking about many, many, many trillions. Now, on financial instruments and the tools that we need to use to accelerate a green transition. And thank you, Shalom, for this important question. So, as you know, there are huge needs as we stand today for how to finance actually the needs on the ground, whether it's mitigation or adaptation. We need on the first level to start thinking wholesale approaches. So instead of financing project by project, we need to think of really financing programmatic approaches or portfolio of projects rather one project at a time. An example of that is green bonds. For example, through banks, issuer banks would have a portfolio, a pipeline of projects that qualify as green. You can use also risk-sharing facilities with FIs. Then the second dimension for the transition plan, we cannot rely on just direct investment. We have to involve the financial sector of each country. So we have to enable the actors, the key actors in the financial sector, and in developing countries, the key players are really the commercial banks. So we have to work with commercial banks, enable them, train them, provide them with the frameworks for the questions of ESG, climate risks, integration and inclusion of gender, and so on. That could accelerate really the process. In addition to that, we have to really put appropriate frameworks and standards and provide tools and build capacities as the lower phase, a lower layer of infrastructure before we look at other things. The question of gender is very important, and it is dear to Shalom's heart and mine, and many of you probably. So women-tailored financing programs are very necessary. The problem is when we talk to commercial banks, we are told there isn't enough demand by women to justify creation of standalone financing programs. However, we think that there should be a very targeted and strategic approach. We should not think in absence of the market. It is not an academic exercise. We need to look at the market and what are the industries and sectors that exist. So, for example, in Morocco is a major producer of Aragon oil, and there are many women cooperatives who are producing argan oils. So maybe we can, and numerous cooperatives. So maybe the option is to target that segment of producers and create women-dedicated financing and provide maybe, they use a lot of sustainable tools and traditional approaches to their agriculture, but maybe provide them even with more technical assistance to integrate smart agriculture techniques and so on. So one has to create solutions, but not in theoretical way, but go and examine the market, the country, where are the needs, where is the potential, and of course, the key question always, are these businesses sustainable? Are they viable financially? And so on. I will add one more point, and this is about the key barriers to mobilizing private sector in climate initiatives. So we see many hurdles actually and barriers, but there is progress. Oops, I don't know how I went to mute. So the first hurdle is really we have issue of access to finance. As I said, not many countries have enough commercial financing for projects, project developers, and so on. In mitigation, even it's better than in adaptation projects. Then the second hurdle is the local expertise. So sometimes we receive, I worked in impact investing in IFC. So we receive a lot of excellent ideas, but the project developer are not versed in finance, and they couldn't build a financial model that shows that this project is profitable, in fact. So we would run the analysis ourselves. And for example, I remember we had in Laos solar panels project, and it was an excellent project. It was to provide to individual farmers in very rural areas. And if you look at the map of Laos, it's very long and it's very vertical. So it's long transportation. And for the government to build infrastructure, it is a big challenge. So that solar panel project was great. However, it was a rental mechanism, and by the time the developer starts making money, and by the year 7, he had to replace the solar panels because their life was 7 years only. So you have to think about these things. We run the analysis for him, and we showed him, and he realized that his business model is not working. However, these type of investments pushed the technology providers to improve their technologies and produce maybe solar panels which last 15 years. To my knowledge, for now, they are 10 years, 12 years. Maybe it's better now. But more we tested, more the technology was cheaper. So as you see, all worked together, but there was support from a regulatory standpoint, from technical assistance, the development institutions. The banks started venturing with small amounts to check the market and test. And this now proves to be a very profitable business. So the capacity and the skills in some countries are not there. So we have pipelines of projects, but not viable all the time. So the question of pipeline remains a big issue for now, and this links a lot to the 100 billion, which is not being mobilized, although it was proposed at the Copenhagen COP. I don't remember, was it, what number was it? 20th maybe. So the 100 billion is not coming because of, it's not only the fault of the donor countries, it's lack of capacity to deploy. Who is going to deploy the 100 billion? You saw our colleague from the EBRD mentioned this year they had 13 billion in total. So where the 100 billion will come from, out of the 13 billion, 6.5 only was for climate. So who is going to pay the 100 billion per year? Where this will come from? So this is very complex, and who will deploy it? I mean, if you look at the financing from the Green Climate Fund, this is a very important vehicle. It was established in 2013. It started its operations. We are about 12 years later. All what was approved to date is about 13 billion. We're talking 12 years. So just to give you a perspective, the Paris Agreement, the NDC document of Guinea alone is 18 billion. Côte d'Ivoire, 22 billion. So this 13 billion it's a drop in the ocean. So there is a lot of movement, as you see, a lot of running around, and the copy is becoming ridiculous. 70,000 people went to Dubai last year, the year before to Sharm el-Sheikh. I'm not going to COP. I stopped going. I prefer to be on the ground, working with the people on real things and implement and move ahead. So to date, as Shalom said, we were established in 2018. We have already a portfolio of 65 projects and big important projects for each country. It's tangible, it is very motivating. So the politics are good, but let's keep them for the high level. We can sit back, read them, understand them, but let's act on our level with what we can do. Let's do tangible things. And this mania of LinkedIn, people are running around and putting their photos. It's lovely, absolutely lovely. But let's do the real work as well. So voila, I always want to be provocative. And this is, as someone says, a good philosopher, a French one, la provocation est essentielle. So provocation is essential. So somebody has to do it. And I'm happy always to pinch the system a little bit and make people think a little bit what is essential, what we ought to do. I close on this, and the hope is in you, the young and the youth and the energetic, smart ladies out there as well.
Wow, it deserves a standing ovation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I was just about asking what we have to do, because we see the financial institutions, we see us, the senior professionals, the way the things have been done, just like you mentioned, and it makes us feel incapacitated as youth because we do not even have these resources to mobilize them. And what do we really do as youth? We've been doing advocacy for long, and I get tired of advocacy sometimes because that's all I can do. So I really wanted to know if there's something more we can add to advocacy that can be more tangible, that can look like tangible actions.
I very much appreciate that we have a market it's multiple stakeholders, and advocacy is very important because it promotes specific ideas and it defends certain stakeholders who don't have a voice as well, and representation. What I would say for advocacy, it's very important to be focused and not to change the product, the subject matter. Number two, we have to be very knowledgeable about what we are talking. Then people will listen to us and they will respect. To do that as young people, try to be involved in projects. That will give you the best experience. You can work in consulting. Consulting is a very good way to learn also. We study a lot, we work a lot, we analyze, we write coherently. So you can learn, get the discipline, you know, of thinking carefully. Work in banks, start small, it's all right, you will grow, but you will not start small where you are all very well educated and so on. So work with project developers. So develop technical skills, engineering, market, policy, finance, banking, all those are very important. Then your advocacy will be more efficient and your voice will be more heard, and people will be very careful when they hear you. When I managed the Clean Technology Fund, we had a lady representing one NGO, and she was better than anybody else. I mean, she knew her subject matter, and I was the coordinator at the World Bank, and I always gave her the floor because she had something meaningful to do. And then, of course, she advanced a lot in her career on the personal level, because obviously, like me, she was picked by the people who knew who knows and who was just singing and writing poetry. Of course, I love poetry, n'est-ce pas? But it is not the platform. This is serious. It's economics, it's poverty, it's development of our developing countries, who are still struggling with many issues. So this is very serious. So be serious about it, and don't worry about those who are always out there with their photos. And it's nice, put your photos, I'm not saying no, but don't worry about that. That is only an ego and personal legacy. We will not build the world on the basis of personal legacies and ego. Do the right thing.
Wow, that's inspirational. That's really perfect. Thank you so much for the words. It spoke a lot to everything, validates the process of what we are doing, both personally and even at Renewworks Technologies. And before opening the floor to questions from the audience, I do have one final one, because I was just curious and wondering, would we ever reach the and like would we ever reach the energy transition? Would we have the money to do the decarbonize, to reach net zero? Would it ever happen?
It is a transition. So we are setting targets. And as you remember, in 2015, the target was the NDCs, the Paris Agreement. Now we are becoming more sophisticated. We're adding timing. We're adding the 1.5 degrees. We are targeting the net zero. There is movement, but we cannot disrupt the economy in 1 day, on 2 days. It will take time. We do hope, we only do hope that things will get better, but it takes ethic in the business also to get to the net zero. These mining companies are all Americans and Canadians and Europeans. What do we do about them? It takes some ethical approach from their investors to decide to comply also and integrate the net zero on national level. So those are challenges, but one should have faith and try as much as we can, I would say.
True, that's true. I'll open the floor to questions from the audience. Anyone want to ask a question specifically? You can just signify by raising your hand, or you can go ahead to unmute. That means the subject matter was really discussed explicitly, and they greatly understood it. So thank you so much. I'm grateful that you found the time to join us, and we apologize sincerely for disrupting your movement, but
No, not at all. It's my pleasure, Shalom. And of course, we stay in touch through other platforms as well. And all the best for all the team here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, maybe we can take a picture. I just recall that I haven't taken a picture. If you're closer to your camera and you want to take a moment to, yes, you can turn on your camera so we can take a picture with the. All right, I'll just take the picture on the count of 3. 1, 2. Okay, 3. Yes, I have taken the picture. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It's been a pleasure that you joined us. Take a moment to fill out our survey, and we look forward to seeing you once again in our November edition. Thank you once again, Ms. Jomana. I truly appreciate the time that you brought out to join us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A pleasure. All the best to all of you guys. Life is beautiful. Go ahead and do what you can do.
Yes, really
Cheers.
motivated. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Please take out the time to fill out our survey and look forward to our message for the November edition. It's going to be awesome. So look forward to the emails, look forward to the promotions for it. And see you next month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
my dear, no problem. I will talk to her.
Thank you. Stop recording.